Hello everyone, my name is Dogly. This video is a follow-up to my last video where I pulled Key of Khaj-Nisut for my Kuki Shinobu. This video I'll be going over the math more in depth, and I will also answer all the questions I received last time. I'll also at the very end have a short Spiral Abyss showcase. Alright, so let's just jump right into it. Key of Khaj-Nisut is Nilou's signature weapon, but many of us are not pulling for Nilou. However, the weapon is also top tier for Kuki on Hyperbloom teams. The key as a weapon scales off of HP, and the more HP the wielder has, the more EM the weapon provides, with stacks of EM going to the holder, but if you get max stacks then the entire team will get a smaller elemental mastery buff as well. With the passive activated, Key of Khaj-Nisut will always give more elemental mastery for Kuki than Iron Sting will. And with the right artifact build, it will also surpass Freedom Sworn, making it the weapon that will give Kuki the biggest Hyperbloom numbers. The vast majority of this video will cover Kuki using Key, but I do want to briefly go over some other characters that might benefit from it. Because the weapon requires 3 on-field hits of an elemental skill for the passive to activate, this means only characters that hit multiple times with their E or that have very short skill cooldowns can fully benefit from the weapon. Bennett has a short skill cooldown, and while using a low base attack weapon like the Key on Bennett will decrease his ultimate's attack buff, he will then also gain an elemental mastery transfer, which in some reaction-based teams can be more beneficial. However, a lot of the time using a high base attack weapon like Aquila Favonia or Mistsplitter will still give better results. It really just depends on what the team wants. Key also requires Bennett to use a few seconds of his ultimate's time to gain stacks, which means his team has less time to abuse his ultimate. However, Bennett does gain increased healing with the weapon, and it isn't a big team DPS loss to build Bennett with HP to gain more EM transfer. Kazuha's elemental skill has a fairly short cooldown, so he can reliably proc Key's passive. Kazuha has a higher base HP stat than Bennett or Kuki, meaning that he can actually gain more EM from this weapon than either of them. The main thing is Kazuha doesn't have any need for HP outside of the Key. However, if you want to build Kazuha purely with the highest possible EM, Key again is the best choice, and he would still use a triple EM artifact build, but just go for HP substats. Like Bennett, Kazuha is often played primarily as a support character, so building HP on Kazuha usually won't be a huge DPS loss for the team. However, Bennett and Kazuha also have certain energy recharge requirements, and using this weapon and HP builds means that another teammate will have to help with particle generation. Additionally, DPS or sub-DPS Kazuha and Bennett will lose a lot of personal damage using this weapon. Outside of Nilou, Kuki, Bennett, and Kazuha, there really aren't any other sword users that have skill cooldowns that really work super well with Key's passive. Probably the best remaining candidate is Jean, whose elemental skill cooldown is 6 seconds, which isn't super low but not super high either. Jean also has a very high base HP stat, meaning she can pass on a lot of EM after building stacks. Albedo and Kaya might have low cooldowns, but building them with the Key is too much of a personal DPS loss for them. Bennett, Kazuha, and Jean might be usable with the Key, but also note that they need more field time than Kuki to activate the passive. So now that's out of the way, let's talk about Kuki Shinobu. The Key has the potential to be Kuki's best in slot weapon for Hyperbloom teams, and it can be valuable for buffing teammates in other team compositions. Kuki only needs to stay on field for a few additional seconds to fully activate the passive. However, exactly how much the weapon increases Kuki's or the team's EM completely depends on your artifact substats. Hyperbloom Kuki would prefer using Gilded Dreams for the boosted elemental mastery, and if you don't have a good Gilded Dream set, you can opt for 2-piece Gilded, 2-piece Wanderers. Kuki's Sand, Circlet, and Goblet should be EM main stats, and her substat focus should be HP percent. This chart shows a lot of different substat variations for Kuki to help get a general idea of how total HP is affected by substats. You can pause to read the chart more if you want, but suffice it to say it is possible to get a ton of extra HP on Kuki if you invest heavily in HP substats. Also note that if you want to know how much HP your Kuki would have when she's holding the key, just add about 10,500 HP to her, since that's about the HP the key will give. I'll spend more time on this next chart. Here I break down different HP benchmarks for Kuki to see how much personal EM she gains from the key and how much the team gains as well. Note that even with 0 extra HP, a level 90 Kuki holding a level 90 key will gain 171 elemental mastery compared to Iron Sting's 165. However, summoning for a 5-star weapon only to get 6 extra EM doesn't sound like a good investment. To really see the key's potential, you'll need those HP substats. Personally, I think getting between 35,000 and 40,000 HP is very achievable, especially because I imagine most Kuki players have already been raising artifacts that have HP substats. So this range is probably where most players would be once the key is equipped. 35,000 HP is how much Kuki needs for the key to match Freedom Sworn, but again, this is super achievable. Without Hydro Resonance, I think the HP ceiling for Kuki using only HP substats is around 45,000, but getting that high is going to be very hard. EM main stat artifacts are rare enough, so trying to get lots of HP percent rolls on them is going to be a pain, and I imagine most players will get frustrated farming for them as they approach that 40,000 HP benchmark. However, we can definitely see that the increased HP will improve the key by quite a lot. If you're not using Kuki on a Hyperbloom team and instead you want to buff a teammate's elemental mastery, then a full HP build is in some cases viable, like if you're using Kuki for an aggravate or spread partner. For example, if you're trying to buff Tignari's personal damage, a more HP-focused Kuki on Tenacity of the Millilith can be viable. A well-built main stat HP percent Kuki can hit around 55,000 HP and transfer 110 elemental mastery to the team. However, if we're comparing that well-built triple EM Kuki to an average HP main stat Kuki, the difference usually isn't that much. Additionally, we see that in order for HP Kuki to maximize her HP, Hydro Resonance is needed, and once Hydro Resonance is there, then that means Kuki will be dealing electrocharged or hyperbloom damage anyway, at which point Kuki would be better off running triple EM instead of triple HP. For this reason, I think triple EM is the more universal build for Kuki, and triple HP is very niche. However, some hybrid Hyperbloom teams might want their triple EM artifacts on Tenacity of the Millilith instead of Gilded, if their teammates still benefit from the attack buff. One of the good things about Kuki's combat design is that her elemental skill hits fairly slowly, but with a large radius. This means that an aggravate or spread team could nicely hybridize with a Hyperbloom Kuki, as long as you're careful with your timing. I'll be referring to these teams as hybrid Hyperbloom, which basically means a Hyperbloom team with a main DPS that is Dendro or Electro. Partners like Tignari or Sinnoh can benefit from the key's elemental mastery buff by getting aggravate or spread boosted attacks, while also letting Kuki's radius hit stray seeds on the side for extra Hyperbloom damage. While I have been able to pull this off before, sometimes positioning can require a bit of finesse, and if a Dendro core spawns in front of Sinnoh might accidentally proc Hyperbloom instead of Kuki. Since Tignari can't proc Hyperbloom himself, this is less of an issue for him though. For Hyperbloom Kuki teams, currently the Dendro slot is best filled with Dendro Traveler, but Kole can be used in a pinch, and her value is further increased when holding Elegy of the End. Once 3.2 comes out, Nahida will almost definitely be Kuki's best Dendro partner. While Barbara and Kokomi can provide consistent Hydro application in the Hydro slot, their healing role is already filled by Kuki, so going for a more DPS Hydro option makes more sense. Child can sometimes work, but his stance cooldown can be annoying. Therefore, I think Xingqiu, Yelan, and Ayato are the best 3 Hydro characters to pair with Hyperbloom Kuki. Of these 3, I personally prefer Yelan the most, since she offers a minor amount of crowd control, and because she can hold Elegy of the End. However, both Xingqiu and Ayato have a very reliable Hydro application and great personal damage, so they are not bad choices as well. The last slot is then a flex slot. Sucrose, C2 Kazuha, or C6 Diona can be options to further increase Kuki's elemental mastery. Using one of the Hydro units you didn't pick above can then be a great option for Hydro Resonance, increasing Kuki's HP and elemental mastery even further. Using a second Dendro character can give elemental mastery for Dendro Resonance, but personally I don't think this is viable in 3.1, but it may have some potential in 3.2 with Nahida. Personally, in 3.1 I found the most fun and success using Kuki with Dendro main character, Xingqiu, and Yelan. The duo of Xingqiu and Yelan provides a ton of Hydro application and creates a ton of Dendro cores, and their shared DPS is very high, making them stand out to me. Lastly, more as a fun gimmick, Candace can turn Kuki into a Hydro attacker, allowing Kuki to both create Dendro cores and Hyperbloom them. Kuki's personal normal attack damage won't be super high, but this partnership does create a sort of quality of life upgrade and makes getting Hyperblooms even easier. When it comes to hybrid Hyperbloom teams, the team variation can be quite vast. Personally, I summoned the key so that my Kuki could buff my Sinnoh's damage, so my favorite hybrid team to run is Kuki, Dendro MC, Yelan, and Sinnoh. Kuki holding the key provides major role consolidation, giving Sinnoh a healer, Electro Resonance to solve energy problems, and an EM buff that actually lasts the full duration of Sinnoh's ultimate if timed properly. Replacing Sinnoh with Tighnari would give similar results for a spread team. However, in 3.1, I think a lot of these hybrid Hyperbloom teams have their potential locked away until we can get Nahida in 3.2. Overall, I think Key of Khaj-Nisut is Kuki's best in slot weapon for her best team composition of Hyperbloom. However, in order to fully achieve what the key can do, you need to get great HP substats on already rare EM main stat artifacts. Depending on how much HP you can get, I expect most players to see around a 4 to 10% increase in the damage of Kuki's Hyperblooms when she's using the key compared to the Iron Sting, with this damage percent increase being slightly bigger for Millilith sets and slightly smaller for Gilded Dream sets. As a result, the key then is very much a luxury weapon for certain in-game players. If you were eyeing the weapon banner for all of Primordial Jade Cutter, Cephos' Moonlight, Wandering Evenstar, and you like playing Kuki Hyperbloom, then this weapon banner is actually of great value. If you fit the bill for benefiting from all of these weapons, it's definitely a respectable decision to summon on this banner. And if you already summoned trying to get Jade Cutter but you got the key instead, rest assured that under the right circumstances, this weapon is very good and is actually less niche than what many other content creators have shared so far. I found the weapon banner to be of great enough value for my personal account that I decided to try to snipe more copies of the 4 stars since my last video, and I ended up getting a second key that came at around 20 pity. So I'm definitely thrilled to now have a Refinement 2 key. With all that said, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, and bye!